What's up, guys? Welcome back to DIY guitar making. I'm here in the shop again working on guitar number 106 for David in California. You can see I have the neck here held in the vise, and actually I did a couple of things off camera just to keep the ball rolling here in the shop. Sometimes it helps to put the camera to the side and just knock out some steps. So I did the mortise and tenon neck joint, and I also, as you can see, attached the fretboard. Okay, and I'm going to kind of run us through today pretty quickly too, because I've got a lot of neck carving to do, and I could spend a great deal of time covering every little nitty-gritty detail, which I do cover in my online course, Building an OM Acoustic. But here I'm just going to kind of give you a breeze through of some of the key points here with neck carving. So I'm starting out right now simply by bringing down all the excess mahogany that is sitting outside of the fretboard. After I glue the fretboard on, there's always a lot of neck blank material that is outside of it, and we're going to bring that in. And so I can do that nice and easily with a spoke shave. You can see this thing is just a beast. Okay, so I just cut 2 troughs here with a half-round rasp, and the reason for these troughs is they're going to become our depth markers for the nut end of the neck and for the heel end of the neck. So we're going to have a different depth over here, and then it's going to taper up to a slightly thicker neck on this end. So you can kind of see that difference between the two right there. That's a 2 millimeter difference. So our neck is going to taper in thickness from the nut end to the heel by about 2 millimeters. So this is the point now where I can begin true carving, the real act of sculpture, which is neck carving. And what that's going to involve is essentially carving a series of facets all along the shaft of the neck in order to develop its contour. And at the same time, as I'm cutting those, I have to be attentive enough to what I'm doing to notice when I need to do work on the cheeks area and the heel area and blend that in with the contour facets that I'm developing on the neck shaft. Okay, so now we've gone into the second day of carving this neck right now. You can see I'm very close to the end, but this is the point where I'm going to look a little more closely at some of the details around the cheeks and around the heel. The shaft, very simple what I'm doing at this point. At this point, I'm literally just taking it down with my sheet of 40 grit sandpaper. Yes, 4D grit, so it's extraordinarily fast cutting. And I'm just taking this, and if I hold it taut at the sides like this, it will carry me down the rest of the way to those little trough marks that I made earlier. That's how I know when I'm done. But I don't want to get there all at once. I want to really using a little bit of artistic discernment and my sculpting ability to carve out these cheeks and the heel appropriately as I sneak up on those 2 marks. So at this point, I'm trying to get rid of this little flat spot that we have right here. Now, it's common for people to make the assumption that, okay, I have this flat spot that is untouched, I've never hit it with my file, so maybe I just need to get into the flat spot itself and try and round that out from in here. But actually, that is our lowest point right now. So we'd actually be making a bad problem worse by coming in there. What we actually want to attack to get rid of that flat spot is the cheeks on either side of it. So if I work my file here and here, it will simply push that flat spot inward until it disappears completely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, dudes and dudettes, at long last, after about 2.5 days of carving this and fine-tuning some of the finer little details around the cheeks and the heel, this is looking pretty good. There might be a little more fine-tuning right before I attach this to the body, and definitely a little bit before final finish prep. But for now, we're in a good place. So what we're gonna do is move on to the tenon here, and we're going to begin work installing the brass insert, which will hold the bolt for our bolt-on mortise and tenon joint. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is first mark out where we're gonna drill for this insert. I always do 1 3/4 inches here. That's based off of this being an orchestra model sized instrument, so your measurements might vary. So I've got 1 3/4 inches right there, and let me just center that with my center finding ruler. Very convenient ruler to have. It puts the 0 right in the center, so you don't have to do any math in your head, which is great for someone like me. Okay, and I've got my 27/64 of an inch bit, which really what you want to do is with your, when you have your brass, can't say that word, when you have your brass insert, you want to take a scrap block and a nice set of, an engineer's set of drill bits, because they'll be in smaller increments of 64ths of an inch, and do a bunch of test holes to determine exactly what size you want. If it's any indication of how precise and fiddly that sort of thing is, this is 27/64 of an inch, so a very odd number there. And so what we're going to do is drill our hole with a little depth flag on here so we don't drill too deep. And I almost got ahead of myself here, because the first thing we got to do is clamp 2 cauls on either side of this tenon. It's a preventative thing. If we just drill a hole with no pressure on the sides of this tenon is a very narrow protrusion of wood, and you can literally just blow the whole thing apart with the pressure of the drill bit if we don't reinforce it on the sides. So let me go grab that. All right, so I got my 2 cauls, which are really just sanding blocks. You know, a caul is just a piece of wood. Any piece of wood that you can use to protect surfaces and distribute clamping pressure with. In this case, we're using it to protect the surface from the clamp. All right, so I've got my clamp right over, nice and tight, right over the area where I plan to drill. I've got my depth flag ready, and we're going to go ahead and place this right on the center of the X. And I'm just going to line this up by eye here. I used to have a fancy little drill guide that I made just for this purpose, but I found over time that I could do a better job keeping it square by just eyeballing it than using that guide. So I don't know, I guess I didn't make the guide very well. But regardless, you don't need it to be dead nuts perfect. You just need it to be mostly square. Okay, we have a hole. Now, we don't want to take this off right away because installing the insert itself actually puts more pressure on the tenon, outward pressure, than drilling the hole does. So that would be a mistake, and we'd actually be more likely to blow the tenon apart. So we'll keep this on for now. So here I have a easy lock, can't think of what it's called actually, a drive tool, that's what it is. I've got an easy lock drive tool, and you can order these at Fastenal or any sort of fastener supply place like a Granger, and this is fitted exactly to, this is intended for use with the size insert that I happen to be using. So you can get a tool that is specialty made for the inserts that you intend to use. And that's a lot easier, or I should say a lot better, a lot more, you'll get more accurate, you'll do more accurate of a job than if you simply use a flathead screwdriver, which you could use to get by the first time. Alright, so once again I want to keep this relatively square. And just like that. Alright, so now we can take this off. So we have done as much as we can on the neck for now. So we're going to turn our attention back to the sound box, and we have some fun and exciting things we can do here, particularly bending these binding strips and installing them. So these are actually new custom sized strips that I ordered from Gurian Instruments, because the normal strips that you can get from StewMac and LMI, actually I shouldn't lump LMI into there because I haven't ordered their binding strips, but with StewMac I find that the binding strips are just a little too small for my liking. In fact, if you look at some of the finer guitars out there, you know, made by Irvin Samaji and Jason Costel and all those guys, you'll notice that one theme you'll see is that they all tend to have taller, height-wise, the binding is taller than what you typically see on commercially built guitars, and what you typically get when you order binding strips from StewMac. So nothing, you know, against StewMac, but that is why I mentioned earlier that I was waiting on these custom strips. So these are a little taller, and they're also just a little bit wider. They should still bend fine, being just 10 thousandths of an inch thicker than a typical 80 thousandths of an inch strip that you would get from StewMac. But we'll see. That's what I'm going to be doing next. I will do that off camera, and I will catch you guys in the next one, where we will probably most likely be getting into cutting those binding channels and installing the binding strips. So that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com, or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.